Chapter 451. The two figures, one tall and one short, were none other than the great demon, Yuan Hao, and the winged eagle. Because of the internal discord among the human race, we demons have the opportunity to strike, the fully transformed winged eagle replied coldly. His face stern and eyes sharp. Let's go, we must reclaim the body of the holy demon, Yuan Hao said. The winged eagle stopped him, speaking up, your size is too large, it might hinder your movement. Yuan Hao replied, this is just a minor form. As soon as he finished speaking, his form began to shrink rapidly, and in a moment he was reduced to a figure of 7 feet. As his body changed, his large cloak fell to the ground, no longer supported by his now smaller form. Once done, Yuan Hao stepped through the bronze door. The winged eagle glanced at the cloak that had fallen to the ground and shook his head, seemingly a little helpless, but also mocking. He raised his hand and collected the cloak before following behind Yuan Hao. Disappearing into the bronze door, after passing through the bronze door, Xing Wenyao found the scene before him quickly blurring. After a brief moment of disorientation, he arrived in a small, pitch-black underground cavern. The cavern was small, only about 10 paces in diameter. Around the cavern, there were 8 mountain caves, each about 10 feet high. Every entrance looked almost identical, with no obvious differences. The ghostly mist here was extremely thick, Xing Wenyao released his spiritual sense, only to find that with his mid-nascent soul cultivation he could only sense up to a yard around him. For a nascent soul cultivator, a yard's range of perception was nearly useless, even less effective than his tactile senses. Where's this place? I wonder if we are still within the mountain. Xing Wenyao asked, speaking to Xing Gaohan, who had come in with him. Xing Gaohan responded, we're probably no longer inside the mountain but deep in some underground area of the secret realm. Grr. The nether fox suddenly let out a few low growls, then it ran towards one of the mountain caves. Let's go. Follow it, Xing Gaohan whispered. The caves were intricate, often leading to crossroads. After just a few dozen feet, the cave was pitch black, and with their spiritual sense limited, without the nether fox to guide them, even 2 nascent soul cultivators would have difficulty tracking Jing Wuming. The 3 of them proceeded cautiously, moving slowly. Be careful. Suddenly, Xing Gaohan shouted. A blast of energy shot from his hand, pulling the nether fox back a couple of yards. At the same time, a sudden flash occurred at the center of Xing Gaohan's forehead, and 9 short blades swiftly shot out. The blades, around 3 inches long, flew through the air, piercing the ghostly mist ahead. Zzz, a shrill, ear-piercing screech rang out, sending a chill down their spines. The sound was like an arrow piercing through their eardrums, going straight to their minds. The Xing family had explored the secret realm several times, so they were naturally prepared for the spiritual attacks from vengeful spirits. Both Xing Gaohan and Xing Wenyao's foreheads suddenly glowed with a bead. The beads were the size of pigeon eggs, radiating a blue light that firmly shielded their heads, protecting them from the spiritual attacks of the vengeful spirit. Xing Wenyao acted quickly, swiftly returning the nether fox to his spirit beast pouch to prevent it from being killed by the vengeful spirit's spiritual attack. No doubt it's a late-stage 4th-rank vengeful spirit, Xing Gaohan said. The vengeful spirit withstood his full force, focused spirit stab, without dying, indicating it was at least a late-stage 4th-rank being. Xing Gaohan quickly formed hand seals, and bolts of lightning began to gather around him as he cast his spell. Xing Wenyao's forehead also released 9 spiritual blades of sharp mental force. These blades were slightly smaller than those summoned by Xing Gaohan. The blades pierced through the ghostly mist ahead, and the vengeful spirit's wailing immediately weakened without giving the vengeful spirit any time to recover. 5 bolts of silver lightning, about the width of a bowl, shot out from Xing Gaohan's body. Boom, boom. 5 thunderclaps exploded a few yards ahead. The lightning surged like wild stallions, rampaging through the pitch-black ghostly mist. Wherever the lightning passed, the mist quickly dissipated. A vengeful spirit, humanoid in shape but with several tentacles, struggled in the lightning. The vengeful spirit's form gradually became blurry, and under their consecutive attacks, it finally turned into a wisp of smoke, vanishing into the endless darkness. We've only just entered this maze, and we've already encountered a late-stage 4th-rank vengeful spirit. It looks like there are many more spirits like this here. We must remain cautious. Xing Gaohan advised. Xing Wenyao nodded without speaking and released the nether fox again. Perhaps due to the previous battle scattering Jing Wuming's lingering aura, the nether fox suddenly lost its sense of direction at the next intersection. It stopped and began scanning the various tunnels, its deep eyes glinting with sharp light in the dark. After a moment, the nether fox successfully detected Jing Wuming's scent again and ran toward a tunnel on the left. Xing Gaohan and Xing Wenyao followed closely behind. As they continued, the two began to sense something was off, despite weaving through the maze and taking many turns. The nether fox had not encountered a single dead end. It was as if Jing Wuming ahead of them knew the maze like the back of his hand. He clearly knew where he was headed and how to get there, never pausing or losing direction. A look of surprise and doubt appeared on Xing Wenyao's face. How is this possible? How is he determining the direction? And how does he know the location of the exit? He asked. Xing Gaohan furrowed his brow, deep in thought. After a while, a sharp gleam flashed in his eyes, as if he had thought of something. Do you remember Ancestor Xing Ci? Xing Wenyao turned to look at Xing Gaohan, puzzled. Ancestor Xing Ci? You mean? Xing Ci was a former nascent soul cultivator of the Xing family 30 years ago. After exploring this secret realm, Xing Ci, for some unknown reason, didn't immediately return to the Xing family but instead left the clan to travel. Then, for some inexplicable reason, Xing Ci died outside the clan. How did Xing Ci die? Who was responsible for his death? The Xing family had never figured it out. Xing Gaohan nodded, his expression turning unusually serious. Ancestor Xing Ci's death is likely tied to the Jing family. It's highly possible that the Jing family obtained some important information from Xing Ci that we still don't know about. Xing Wenyao's face changed. Does that mean Jing Wuming might get to the soul-destroying demon pill first? Xing Gaohan said, Don't panic. The soul-destroying demon pill is not that easy to obtain. Let Jing Wuming lead us, and we'll follow him out of the maze. Hearing this, Xing Wenyao felt a little more at ease, though he still couldn't hide his concerns. The Xing family had spent over 1,000 years exploring this secret realm, and the treasure was almost within reach. They couldn't afford to falter now. The pace of their steps quickened as they pressed on. Chapter 452. Songwen descended along the mountain, successfully reaching the foot of the mountain, perhaps due to the contamination of the ghostly mist. The foot of the mountain, like the mountain itself, was barren and desolate, with not a single blade of grass, completely devoid of vitality. At a flat area about 10 yards from the mountain, Songwen discovered an underground crack. After confirming that there was no danger in the crack, Songwen leapt down. The crack was shallow, only about 10 yards. Deep. Songwen reached the bottom of the crack and carved out a temporary cave dwelling. A clever rabbit has 3 burrows. At a location about a yard away from the crack, Songwen dug 2 different tunnels leading to the surface. These 2 tunnels were not fully excavated but were left with half a yard of rock at the surface, in case of an emergency. Songwen could directly break through the rock layer and escape. Songwen hid the Ghost King in the crack to monitor any activity on the surface. He then set up the breath concealment and spirit isolation array in the cave and began his quiet meditation. During the past 2 years on the surrounding islands, he had devoured many beast souls, and after entering the secret realm, he had consumed 8 third-rank vengeful spirits. This caused his spiritual consciousness to reach a bottleneck, showing signs of advancing. Songwen planned to meditate in this temporary cave until the secret realm closed, at which point he would be forcibly sent out of the realm. According to Xing Wenyao, the secret realm would close in another 6 months. At that time, he would be sent back to the place where he first entered. A lush and dense forest. Songwen was confident that with his control over his aura, he could easily hide in a secluded spot in the forest, making it difficult for anyone to find him. Sitting down on the ground, Songwen calmed his mind and began operating the forbidden divine art. The spiritual consciousness bottleneck at the middle stage of the Golden Core realm came faster than Songwen had anticipated. After only a few days of seclusion, he clearly felt the presence of the bottleneck. Perhaps due to consuming too many souls, a large amount of soul fragments had been refined and turned into nutrients to expand his sea of consciousness. In just half a month, his spiritual consciousness broke through the bottleneck and his Spiritual power skyrocketed. As a result, Songwen's sea of consciousness and soul gradually began to strengthen. This process lasted about half a month, after which his sea of consciousness and soul stabilized, and his spiritual consciousness strength broke through to the late stage of the Golden Core realm. Xing Yishuan had been guarding outside the cave halfway up the mountain for a full 3 months. Several times, she suspected that Songwen had already been killed by the vengeful spirits in the cave. Since the soul-cleaving talisman on her had already run out, she dared not enter the cave to investigate. The ghostly mist at the halfway point of the mountain was as dense as the outer perimeter of the misty ghost realm. The diamond-shaped jade pendant she wore on her chest could not permanently resist the mist's corrosion. After long exposure to the mist, the pendant showed signs of being eroded by the ghostly mist. To restore the pendant to its original state, she would need to leave the mist-filled area and refine the pendant again. However, the entire secret realm was enveloped in the ghostly mist, leaving no place without it. To prevent the pendant from being completely corroded by the mist and losing its protective ability, Xing Yishuan had no choice but to retreat to the foot of the mountain. The ghostly mist was thinner at the foot of the mountain, and the pendant would last another year or two. As for Songwen, she planned to ask Xing Weiyao to check the cave if she met him. Alternatively, after leaving the secret realm, she would report that Xing Li was killed by Songwen and have the two nascent soul cultivators, Xing Wenyu and Xing Gao Han, deal with him. When Xing Yishuan arrived at the small plaza to meet her two subordinates, she found the plaza completely empty. Xing Yishuan recalled that Xing Weiyao had mentioned there were several ruins at the foot of the mountain. She speculated that her two subordinates had gone to search for ruins and treasures. Thus, she began to search the foot of the mountain for ruins while also looking for traces of her two subordinates. The secret realm was larger than she had expected, and it took her half a month to find her two subordinates, the ox-faced and horse-faced men. For the next period of time, the three of them traveled together, searching for various ruins. However, the secret realm had already been searched by the ancestors of the Xing family, so the trio's findings were not plentiful. One day, Xing Yishuan and her two companions discovered an underground entrance. This entrance was located at the foot of the mountain and was covered by a pile of rubble. After clearing the rubble and revealing a sloping stone staircase, the three of them were filled with excitement. It was highly likely that this ruin had never been discovered before. After descending for about a mile, the trio arrived at the end of the stone steps. It led to an underground pit. The pit was several miles wide, with thick bone residue piled inside. The bone residue was several yards high, formed by the wind erosion of corpses. It was unimaginable how many living beings had to perish to create such an astounding amount of bone residue. At the center of the pit, there was a stone platform. The stone platform was several yards long and wide, with its bottom submerged beneath the remains, leaving only a small section of the top exposed. The three of them leapt into the air and flew toward the stone platform. Bang! Suddenly, a transparent barrier lit up on the stone platform. The horse-faced man, flying in the front, collided with the barrier unexpectedly. In an instant, the barrier flared with black light, and a strong malevolent aura swept out like a wild wind in giant waves. The horse-faced man, unprepared, was knocked back several dozen yards, blood spurting from his mouth, staining the air. "Ma Chi, are you all right?" Xing Yishuan asked. "Miss, I'm fine. Just a little internal injury." Ma Chi replied, "That's good." Xing Yishuan nodded in response. Her gaze then shifted toward the high platform, her eyes glinting with an unmistakable light of excitement. After tens of thousands of years, the formation on the high platform could still function, which showed the importance of this place. There must be something extremely valuable on the high platform. She turned to the ox-faced man beside her. "Nyoing, do you have any confidence in cracking this formation?" Nyoing stared at the formation barrier on the platform, observing for a moment before saying, "This formation doesn't seem to be an offensive or defensive formation. It appears to be a demonic formation, the corpse refining great formation, used to refine the aura of corpse spirits." Xing Yishuan said, "The corpse refining great formation. Is there a way to break it?" Nyoing replied, "Breaking this formation is not difficult, but my understanding of the corpse refining great formation is limited, so I'll need some time." How long will it take? Xing Yishuan asked. At the fastest, a few days. At the slowest, 1 or 2 months. Niuing answered. That's fine. There are still 5 months before the secret realm closes, so we have enough time. The objects here must be extraordinary, so unless absolutely necessary, it's better not to use drastic measures to forcefully break the formation, to avoid damaging the treasures on the high platform. Xing Yishuan pondered for a moment and then continued. Niuing, you focus on breaking the formation, and I'll protect you. She then turned to Ma Qi and instructed, Ma Qi, make sure to heal your injuries quickly. Yes. The two responded in unison and began to carry out their respective tasks according to Xing Yishuan's orders. Xing Yishuan then turned back to the stone steps at the entrance and used her magic to manipulate the rubble outside, sealing the entrance once again to prevent others from discovering it and disturbing the corpse pit. Chapter 453. Half a month later, the underground corpse pit suddenly trembled violently. The vibration affected the mountain on one side of the pit, as well as the surrounding area at the foot of the mountain, causing them to slightly shake. Countless loose stones fell from the mountainside, rolling down to the foot of the mountain, creating a booming sound inside the corpse pit. The black malevolent corpse chi surged like a raging dragon, pouring out from the stone platform. The bone residue danced wildly. Xing Yishuan and her two companions were in a state of disarray. The force of the malevolent chi swept through them, pinning them firmly against the rock walls of the corpse pit. Ma Qi summoned his silver bell-shaped magical treasure. The silver bell formed a massive bell-shaped illusion, enclosing the three of them and protecting them. Xing Yishuan and Niuing also used their techniques to help reduce the pressure on Ma Qi. The intense malevolent chi, unable to dissipate, surged into the narrow stone stairway like a wild torrent. Boom. The rubble at the entrance of the passage was instantly blasted away, scattering in all directions. The malevolent chi surged out of the passage like a flood dragon escaping the sea, scattering the surrounding ghostly energy in disarray. After a moment, the malevolent chi gradually subsided. Only then did the three of them manage to free themselves from the rock walls. Ma Qi wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, his face showing a mixture of lingering fear and dissatisfaction as he spoke. Niuing, is this the so-called formation you mentioned? The formation was broken, but what about that shockwave of malevolent chi? You almost got us killed. Niuing's face was slightly pale, as breaking the formation had drained a large amount of his magical energy. If it hadn't been for Xing Yishuan's quick reaction and timely help, he likely would have perished from the violent shockwave of the malevolent chi. Niuing, not one to accept blame, retorted, who could have known that the formation would seal such a vast amount of malevolent corpse chi? Anyone who attempts to break the formation would have to face the shockwave. Ma Qi responded with some disdain, but you previously boasted in front of the mist that breaking the formation wouldn't cause much disturbance. After that shockwave of malevolent chi, it's uncertain whether the treasures on the stone platform are still intact. Xing Yishuan furrowed her brows and looked at the two of them, speaking in a low voice. All right, now is not the time to argue about this. Let's retrieve the treasures from the stone platform and leave as quickly as possible. The commotion we just caused might have already attracted the attention of others. When she said others, she was, of course, referring to the Jing family in the secret realm. Apart from a few unknown nascent soul cultivators, the only person who could threaten her was Jing Lai from the Jing family. After Xing Yishuan finished speaking, Ma Qi and Niuing fell silent. The three of them, alert, leapt into the air and approached the stone platform at the center of the corpse pit. There was no danger or anomaly on the stone platform. A number of crystals were scattered across the stone platform. The crystals were about the size of a child's fist, in a regular diamond shape, and were entirely black. There were more than 200 crystals scattered on the stone platform, haphazardly arranged across the ground. Clearly disturbed by the previous shockwave of malevolent chi, are these the malevolent crystals? Xing Yishuan asked, her tone somewhat disappointed. Although these malevolent crystals were worth more than 200,000 spirit stones, they were far from the priceless treasures Xing Yishuan had been hoping for. Niuing said, this place was probably where the malevolent crystals were refined. The bone residue in the corpse pit is the leftover material after refining the malevolent corpse chi. Xing Yishuan, no longer interested in breaking the formation, casually waved her hand, using her magical energy to sweep across the stone platform, collecting all the malevolent crystals. Some malevolent crystals must have fallen into the bone residue pile. Let's split up and search for them. The three of them separated and began searching around the corpse pit. Due to the earlier shockwave from the stone platform, the ghostly mist that had once filled the pit was mostly swept out. Now, the pit was primarily filled with malevolent chi. And the ghostly mist had thinned out. This allowed the three of them to extend their spiritual senses further. With their spiritual senses stretched out, they could now sense most of the corpse pit, making it easier to search for the malevolent crystals. Not long after, the three of them found several more malevolent crystals. Suddenly, a wind blade, over 10 feet long and shaped like a crescent moon, shot out from the stone stairway passage. It was silent as it darted toward Xing Yishuan, who was closest to the exit. Facing this sudden ambush, Xing Yishuan reacted swiftly. Her figure flickered, and with near instantaneous speed, she narrowly dodged the wind blade. As if it had a consciousness, the wind blade arced eerily through the air, continuing to chase after Xing Yishuan. Xing Yishuan's mind stirred, and she summoned a flying sword. The wind blade was shredded by the flying sword and dissipated into the air. However, before Xing Yishuan could catch her breath, a series of sharp sounds from the breaking air came from behind her. Countless wind blades surged into the stone stairway passage, forming a long dragon of wind blades rushing toward Xing Yishuan. Xing Yishuan's expression turned serious and her figure abruptly retreated. At the same time, she sheathed her flying sword and summoned the flag of waves. As the flag swirled, several torrents of water surged out to clash with the wind blade dragon. Jing Lai, you dare ambush me but are too afraid to show yourself? In this secret realm, only Jing Lai, a golden core cultivator skilled in wind-type techniques, could use such methods. As for the nascent soul cultivators, if they wanted to kill Xing Yishuan, they wouldn't need to resort to ambushes. As soon as Xing Yishuan's words left her mouth, three figures suddenly appeared at the entrance of the corpse pit. It was Jing Lai and two other golden core cultivators from the Jing family. The three from the Jing family said nothing. Each used their methods to attack Xing Yishuan simultaneously. Under the siege of the three, Xing Yishuan didn't dare to hold back and could only focus on defending. Don't harm the miss, Niu Ying bellowed. His magical energy was severely depleted, so he didn't rashly rush forward. Instead, he summoned 4 small flags and attempted to set up a formation to block the 3 Jing family cultivators' attacks. Ma Qi, on the other hand, activated the silver bell. The silver bell enlarged to a size of 1 zhang, about 10 feet, and flew above Xing Yishuan's head, forming a giant silver bell illusion to ease the pressure on her. Seeing this, Jing Lai sneered coldly. He waved his flag of Wind Dragon, and the Windblade Dragon immediately shifted course, aiming directly at Ma Qi. Ma Qi's face changed drastically. He recalled the silver bell to defend, but it was already too late. He hastily summoned a flying sword, which gleamed with cold light as it slashed at the Windblade Dragon. However, Ma Qi's cultivation was already weaker than Jing Lai's, and he was injured. He was no match for Jing Lai. The flying sword was easily swept away by the continuous wind blades. The wind blades kept coming, relentlessly cutting at Ma Qi. Poof! A muffled sound followed. One of the wind blades struck Ma Qi's chest. It cleaved him in two. Then, under the relentless assault of the wind blades, Ma Qi's broken body and soul were shredded into fragments. Blood scattered everywhere, staining the decayed bone residue and parts of the stone platform. Ma Qi. Xing Yishuan let out a roar of grief and anger. Her eyes turned crimson, and she glared at Jing Lai and the others. She flicked her flag of Wind Dragon, and torrents of water surged toward the 3 attackers. Niu Ying, watching the blood mist fill the air, also felt a pang of sorrow. It wasn't that he had any deep bond with Ma Qi, but after the Windblade Dragon had killed Ma Qi, it turned around and rushed toward him. Chapter 454. Just before the Windblade Dragon was about to close in, Niu Ying finally managed to complete the formation. A faint golden light curtain lit up, tightly protecting Ma Qi inside. Clang, clang, clang. A series of golden metal clashes rang out. The wind blades were shattered one after another. The formation's light curtain flickered uncontrollably. Niu Ying, within the formation, gritted his teeth, his face contorted with strain. He desperately channeled the last of his magical energy to stabilize the formation. Fortunately, as Xing Yishuan's rage escalated, her attacks became like a violent storm. The 2 golden core cultivators from the Jing family tried to defend together, but they were still overwhelmed, showing signs of exhaustion. To rescue the 2 golden core cultivators of the Jing family, Jing Lai had no choice but to redirect the Windblade Dragon to strike at Xing Yishuan. In the midst of the intense battle, no one noticed that after Ma Chi's death, the bloodstains scattered on the stone platform and the corpse remnants had quietly disappeared without a trace. What had once been fresh, fragmented flesh had now dried and decayed. As though it had been eroded by countless years, even the shattered soul fragments of Ma Chi had vanished without a trace. It was as if Ma Chi's death had awakened some strange presence deep underground, which devoured his blood and soul. Fragments entirely on the cold stone platform, blood-red markings slowly began to appear. These markings spread like live blood vessels, flowing across the surface of the stone as the blood-red markings continued to spread. The entire stone platform was stained with a seductive crimson hue, as if fresh blood was seeping out from inside, creating an eerie, unexplainable atmosphere. The people in the midst of the fierce battle were also disturbed by the strange changes in the stone platform and halted their actions. The three Jing family members were closest to the exit and held a geographical advantage. Ignoring the cause of the stone platform's transformation, they turned and rushed toward the stone stairway passage. In relics left by demonic forces like the Hall of the Nether Gods, any sudden change was an ominous sign. Xing Yishuan, if you want to leave this cave, bring the treasures you've obtained here as an exchange. Jinglai shouted loudly. This underground corpse pit only had one exit. If he blocked the stone stairway passage, Xing Yishuan and Niu Ying wouldn't be able to escape for a while. Dream on, Xing Yishuan retorted sharply. In this corpse pit, aside from the malevolent crystals, there were no other treasures. Even if there were, if she handed them over to Jinglai, he would never let her leave. Xing Yishuan was very clear on this point. She waved the flag of waves, and surging torrents of water surged toward the three Jing family members as they entered. The passage immediately resounded with deafening crashing sounds as the floodwaters surged upward, continuously slamming into the stone walls. Jinglai glanced back, only to see the churning waters rapidly closing in. Wind wall. Jinglai quickly cast several wind walls, blocking the water behind them, buying a moment for the three of them to escape. At that moment, the stone platform in the center of the corpse pit suddenly began to shake violently. As if a powerful force deep underground was awakening, with a sudden jolt, the stone platform rose from the ground. The length of the platform was far greater than expected, or rather, this wasn't just a stone platform, but a massive stone pillar. A large portion of the pillar was buried underground. Boom. The stone pillar slammed into the corpse pit's dome. The impact was so great it seemed to shake the very heavens, and the entire dome vibrated violently as countless pieces of debris fell. The stone pillar also showed clear cracks from the impact and began to crumble. However, what shocked everyone even more was that after the stone pillar collided with the dome, it did not stop its upward trajectory. It pierced through the dome. Massive cracks spread across the dome as if a demon had opened its ferocious jaws, ready to devour everything in its path. The stone pillar continued to rise from deep underground as if there were no end to it. Large chunks of stone fell from the dome, quickly threatening to bury the corpse pit. Jing Wuming realized that this underground labyrinth was much more difficult than he had imagined. Although he had a map of the labyrinth, vengeful spirits occasionally appeared, causing him great trouble. These spirits were all fourth-stage vengeful spirits, very powerful. Jing Wuming wasn't skilled in lightning techniques and lacked soul-attacking spells. If he hadn't prepared beforehand and brought along some high-level lightning talismans before entering the secret realm, dealing with these vengeful spirits would have been incredibly difficult. It was a hard slog. At one point, he was surrounded by three vengeful spirits. While retreating and fighting back, he finally managed to repel the spirits, only to realize that he had lost his sense of direction. He spent a lot of time before he finally found the correct passage again. After a month of struggle, he finally reached the end of the labyrinth. It was a bronze door. What Jing Wuming didn't expect was that this bronze door was half open. Someone got here first, Jing Wuming exclaimed in surprise. How could this be? He had the labyrinth map, which gave him a significant advantage over others. The spiritual senses in the labyrinth were severely restricted, and without a map, Jing Wuming believed that even if he waited until the secret realm closed, he wouldn't be able to find his way out. Who could have been faster than me and made it through the labyrinth? As Jing Wuming wondered in disbelief, he suppressed his presence and cautiously passed through the bronze door. On the other side of the bronze door was a vast underground passage. There was almost no ghost fog inside the passage, with only a small amount near the bronze door. It seemed that when the bronze door opened, The ghost fog from the labyrinth had spread into this area. The cave twisted and turned, with many natural stone spires standing in place. The cave wasn't completely dark. From some of the fissures in the ground, bright red light seeped out, casting a crimson glow across the cave. Lava flowed through these fissures. Once inside the cave, the oppressive feeling on his spiritual sense immediately disappeared, making Jing Wuming feel much lighter. However, he didn't release his spiritual sense recklessly, fearing it would disturb the person who had gotten there first. Jing Wuming slowly flew to the center of the cave, looking around carefully. It was clear that the cave ran east-west. The eastern passage gradually narrowed, while the western passage seemed to be widening. Without much thought, Jing Wuming decided to head west. He hadn't gone far before hearing the sound of fighting ahead. After cautiously flying through several turns, the cave in front of him grew larger. Jing Wuming pressed himself against the stone wall at a bend and looked across the corner. A massive underground hall appeared before him. In the center of the hall stood a raised platform, several 100 feet in size. At the center of the platform stood a square stone pillar several feet wide and tall. The pillar extended all the way up to the ceiling, piercing into the dome above. At the base of the pillar, there was a giant stone coffin. The stone coffin was so large it could be considered a stone chamber. The coffin had no lid, and the stone pillar pierced directly into the coffin. There were 4 chains at the 4 corners of the coffin, each about the thickness of a human arm. One end of the chains was inserted into the corner of the platform, while the other extended into the coffin, as though binding some powerful entity inside. Chapter 455. The entire platform was shrouded in a pitch-black array barrier. Outside the barrier, 2 figures stood suspended in midair. One was 7 feet tall, while the other was over 20 feet. They were Yuan Hao and Feng Ying. The 2 demons had clearly already attacked the array barrier, but had made no progress. It seems that with just the 2 of us, we cannot forcibly break this array, Feng Ying said. Yuan Hao responded. Then what should we do? Feng Ying furrowed his brows and pondered for a moment before speaking. The only feasible solution right now is for us to retreat temporarily, hide in the shadows, and wait for the human race to arrive. Once the humans manage to break the array, we will seize the opportunity to strike and compete for the holy demon's corpse. Upon hearing this, Yuan Hao felt somewhat unwilling. We've gone to great lengths to find a demon with holy demon blood in the vast seas, following the guidance of the holy demon bloodline, arriving here ahead of the humans. The holy demon's corpse is right in front of us. Such a great opportunity cannot be easily given up. If the 4 human nascent soul cultivators arrive together, it will be nearly impossible for us to compete for the holy demon's body. Feng Ying smiled faintly. The human race isn't as united as you think. Once their numbers grow, infighting will occur. When they weaken each other, we'll swoop in and fish in troubled waters. Yuan Hao fixed his gaze on the corpse coffin inside the array, his eyes filled with fervent desire. He didn't want to retreat, but couldn't think of a better plan, so he reluctantly agreed. All right, we'll do as you say. I hope everything goes as smoothly as you claim. The 2 of them agreed on a plan and slowly retreated. Jing Wuming let out a sigh of relief, as the 2 demons did not retreat in his direction, but instead moved deeper into the hall. After the 2 demons had moved further away, Jing Wuming stared at the platform, frowning in thought. Unlike the demons, he had already made thorough preparations before entering the secret realm. Not only was he skilled in array formations, but he had also purchased a forbidden breaking pearl at a high price. Therefore, he had some confidence in breaking the array on the platform. However, with 2 4th-stage demon beasts lurking nearby, eyes sharp with hunger, he could not afford to act rashly. Otherwise, he might fail to obtain the treasure and end up falling into the claws of the demons. Jing Wuming slowly retreated, eventually reaching the position of the bronze door. With a flick of his thoughts, a wave of spiritual power emerged. Under the pull of his power, the bronze door slowly closed. With a soft click, the bronze door shut tightly. Jing Wuming continued to move a few more steps before hiding in a cave to the east of the bronze door. Since the 2 demons wanted to fish in troubled waters, why couldn't he be the yellow bird in this scenario? Several hours later, the bronze door opened once again. It was Xing Gaohan and Xing Wenyao, who had been tracking Jing Wuming. Jing Wuming got ahead of us. Why is the bronze door closed? Xing Wenyao asked in confusion as they passed through the door and entered the cave. It's likely that Jing Wuming did this on purpose, pretending as if no one had arrived yet, Xing Gaohan replied. A cold smile appeared on Xing Wenyao's face. He probably never imagined that we have the nether fox, which can track his scent here. Xing Gaohan warned. We must still be cautious and not underestimate the situation. Xing Wenyao nodded and asked, which direction should we go? Xing Gaohan pointed to the west. It should be in that direction. The two believed Jing Wuming was ahead and, wary of alerting him, they suppressed their presence and carefully moved westward. In less than half a stick of incense, they arrived at the hall where the platform stood, due to no further attacks. The black array barrier on the platform has gradually disappeared. Why can't I see Jing Wuming's figure? Xing Wenyao asked. Xing Gaohan shook his head. Not responding immediately, his eyes scanned the surroundings of the platform carefully. After a moment, Xing Gaohan said, there are traces left on the ground from someone's actions. The traces are still fresh, so the person must have left not long ago, just a few hours ago. Xing Wenyao furrowed his brows. Could it be that Jing Wuming couldn't break the array and had no choice but to retreat? It seems likely, Xing Gaohan replied. Xing Wenyao asked, then where did he go? Xing Gaohan responded, this is the most central area of the entire secret realm, and it's also where the most valuable treasures are located. Jing Wuming couldn't possibly give up so easily. He is probably hiding somewhere nearby, alone. Jing Wuming is not a threat. You focus on breaking the array while I protect you. Understood. Clearly, the Xing family had gathered some intelligence about this array from their previous exploration of the secret realm. Xing Wenyao had come prepared, flying to the platform. He summoned 9 small flags and began to break the array on the platform. Under his control, the 9 flags landed around the platform. The flags emitted dazzling blue light, like 9 spiritual snakes, winding and shooting towards the center of the platform. In an instant, the black barrier on the platform reappeared. The barrier surged with black light, blocking all 9 streaks of blue light. Xing Wenyao remained calm. Skillfully controlling the 9 flags, time passed, and under the constant bombardment of blue light, the black energy released by the array was gradually depleted. 3 days later, a faint crack sound echoed and a small crack appeared on the black barrier. A flicker of joy appeared in Xing Wenyao's eyes. He took a deep breath, focused his mind, and once again activated the 9 flags. As he moved, the crack gradually widened, and with a loud boom, the black barrier completely shattered and dissipated. The array was broken. Xing Wenyao stood up, his gaze intense as he stared at the platform. Xing Gaohan, who had been keeping an eye on the surroundings, also turned his head to look, his face showing an unmistakable expression of surprise. Xing Gaohan flew up swiftly. Heading toward the platform, Xing Wenyao also intended to rise and fly to the platform but was stopped by a single sentence from Xing Gaohan. Wenyao, stay here and keep an eye on the surroundings. I'll go retrieve the soul-destroying demon pill. Upon hearing this, Xing Wenyao looked at Xing Gaohan flying overhead, a flash of displeasure passing through his eyes. Xing Gaohan flew above the stone coffin and everything inside the coffin came into view. Inside the stone coffin lay a demon beast corpse that was over 10 feet long. The demon beast had the head of a horse, antlers of a deer, the body of a snake, the tail of a lion, and 4 hooves. It resembled the legendary divine beast by Zay. The demon beast's corpse appeared to have been sealed by some force, perfectly preserved, showing no signs of decay from the passage of time, for chains extended from the platform into the stone coffin, with the ends piercing the demon beast's hooves. A square stone pillar, extending straight up to the dome, rested precisely on the beast's body. The chains and stone pillar seemed to have been used to suppress this corpse. However, why would a dead demon beast need to be suppressed? There was only one possibility: the chains and stone pillar were used to suppress and imprison the demon beast when it was still alive. It really is the Wind Thunder Golden Eye Beast, Xing Gaohan muttered softly. Chapter 456. Xing Gaohan's eyes sparkled with a sharp light. Right next to the Wind Thunder Golden Eye Beast, there was a furnace about half a foot high. The furnace was also trapped beneath the stone pillar. From the many jade slips obtained from the Xing family's previous explorations in the secret realm, Xing Gaohan knew the stone coffin before him was actually a pill refining room, but this pill refining room was extremely special. It was dedicated to refining a particular pill, the soul-destroying demon pill. This was a pill long lost to the cultivation world, and it could help a nascent soul cultivator break through bottlenecks in their cultivation. Xing Gaohan and Xing Weiyao had worked tirelessly to reach this place for this very pill. From the information gathered from the many jade slips, they could only roughly deduce that the soul-destroying demon pill was stored within the stone coffin, but the exact quantity remained unknown. If there were 2 or more pills, they would both be satisfied. Xing Gaohan, being at the late nascent soul stage, could only consume 1 pill. This would leave at least 1 for Xing Weiyao. However, if there was only 1 pill, then Xing Weiyao would likely be unable to obtain it. The soul-destroying demon pill was made from the soul of a peak-tier 4th-grade demon beast, and the soul was harvested while the beast was alive. The 4 chains in the stone coffin were meant to imprison the demon beast's cultivation. The stone pillar above provided the corpse aura. In the past, the temple of the underworld used secret methods to activate the corpse aura and forcefully extracted the demon beast's soul from its body. Xing Gaohan raised his hand and shot out a stream of spiritual power, attempting to extract the furnace trapped beneath the stone pillar. However, from the base of the stone pillar, a dense wave of corpse aura suddenly surged, transforming into a snake-like form that swallowed the spiritual power. Then, the corpse snake abruptly detached from the pillar and lunged straight at Xing Gaohan's face. Xing Gaohan quickly retreated, simultaneously launching a burst of lightning. Boom! The lightning flashed brightly. The corpse snake suddenly dispersed. Xing Gaohan flicked his fingers, shooting out more than 10 streams of spiritual power. However, a large amount of corpse aura poured out from the stone pillar, forming more corpse snakes that easily shattered these streams of power. Xing Gaohan felt the situation had become tricky. The corpse aura released by the stone pillar wasn't particularly strong, and any nascent soul cultivator could easily handle it. However, Xing Gaohan was cautious. He feared that forcibly taking the furnace would damage the pills inside. As he pondered how to resolve the situation while staring at the stone pillar, he suddenly heard a loud shout from behind. "Watch out!" A 7-foot-long spear shot through the air. The spear was sleek and concealed in its momentum, like a venomous snake, aiming for Xing Gaohan's back. The spear was jet black, glistening with a cold, eerie light. At the tip of the spear, a gleam of coldness flashed. Sharp and unstoppable as Xing Weiyao shouted his warning, a green wooden ruler appeared before him. The ruler, about an inch long, emitted a faint green glow. With a gentle twist of the wooden ruler, a streak of green light shot out. The green light resembled a lively ribbon, meeting the oncoming spear. The cold gleam from the spear clashed with the green ribbon, creating a deafening explosion. The green ribbon instantly shattered, but it managed to block the spear for a brief moment. In that split second, Xing Gaohan reacted. He quickly turned around, and a feather fan appeared in his hand. The feather fan was fiery red, like blazing flames. Xing Gaohan waved the fan, tracing a fiery red arc in the air. The arc turned into a fire snake, no longer than a yard in length, but emitting an overwhelming heat. The space around it began to distort from the intense temperature. The fire snake shot forward like an arrow, heading straight for the spear. Just as the spear was about to strike the fire snake suddenly twisted its body, coiling around the spear in a serpentine motion. Under the intense heat, the spear's body quickly turned bright red, as though it were about to melt. With the fire snake's entanglement, the spear's momentum immediately weakened. At this moment, a spear, about 10 feet long, shot forward. The spear tore through the air, as though accompanied by crashing waves, and faintly, the sound of surging tides could be heard. The spear skimmed past the long spear, and the illusory waves surged forward, resembling real sea waves, sweeping toward the fire snake. The fire snake immediately weakened, then slowly extinguished. The long spear broke free, its power restored, and it, along with the trident, charged straight toward Xing Gaohan's chest. Wind and water demon powers. Xing Gaohan's heart skipped a beat. He suddenly recalled Yin Shua's previous warning about the 2 demon clan members hidden in the secret realm. He didn't slow down and immediately responded, waving his fire-red feather fan once more. A fire dragon, over 10 feet long, roared forth. The fire dragon was dense and solid, its scales perfectly defined. Both the fire dragon and the fire snake just now appeared to be no ordinary flames. As soon as the fire dragon appeared, the temperature in the Entire hall sharply rose. The fire dragon surged forward, heading straight for the spear and trident. Upon impact with the fire dragon, the trident and spear immediately lost much of their force while Xing Gaohan battled the two demons. Xing Wenyao wasn't idle. The green light from the wooden ruler in his hand flared brightly, and two thick vines rapidly grew from it. The vines were lush with leaves, radiating vibrant green life energy. The vines twisted and coiled like two extending serpents, quickly stretching into the depths of the hall. Boom, boom. After two deafening crashes, the hall trembled, stones fell, and the vines shattered. The figures of Yuan Hao and the Feng Ying emerged. At this moment, both demons had already reverted to their true forms. Yuan Hao transformed into a tidal demon. Standing 2 yards tall, the Feng Ying transformed into a vicious bird, its wingspan stretching 10 yards. Seeing this, Xing Gahan's expression turned dismissive. Humph. A water demon and an aerial beast, yet they've come into this underground cave filled with flowing magma. You two fools, you're courting death. Seeing the true forms of his enemies, Xing Gaohan no longer held back. He raised his feather fan into the air, and a massive fire erupted. In the blink of an eye, the fan transformed into a fire phoenix, several yards in size. The fire phoenix let out a thunderous cry, its wings unfurled, and it opened its mouth to unleash a scorching fire pillar. Wherever the fire pillar passed, flames surged, and half the hall was instantly engulfed in a sea of fire. Yuan Hao coldly watched the incoming firestorm. In his hand, he gripped the trident he had just summoned. With a powerful thrust, the trident slammed into the ground. Instantly, a chilling aura emanated from the trident's tip. It felt like the coldest depths of the sea, sending a shiver down the spine. Xian in heavy water. Yuan Hao muttered, his voice low but carrying an unmistakable weight. Dark blue water flowed from the trident, quickly converging into a water domain more than 10 feet in size. The blue water radiated a thick, cold aura almost like blue mercury, with a faint metallic sheen that gave a heavy, oppressive feeling. The Xian in heavy water surged up, forming a towering wave of 10 feet. Yuan Hao stood atop the wave. As the wave moved, Yuan Hao advanced with it, rushing toward the oncoming firestorm. Chapter 457. The Feng Ying flapped its wings and let out a low shout, Chiming Gang Wind. A deep cyan whirlwind suddenly rose. It was piercing, fierce, and carried an overwhelming sense of slaughter and destruction. The force of the gale was so strong that the space itself seemed unable to withstand its terrifying power. Producing a series of heart-pounding cracking sounds, the Feng Ying, situated within the gale, appeared hazy and indistinct, its form flickering amidst the furious wind. The gale howled as it surged. The Xian in heavy water surged and roared. The Feng Ying and Yuan Hao, one on each side, charged into the sea of fire. The gale was invisible but had the power to destroy everything in its path. As the gale blew, the blazing flames bowed down. The once wildly spreading sea of fire was now suppressed by the gale. Retreating step by step, shrinking back, the flames were mercilessly swept into the gale, torn into countless fragments like red silk, dancing with the wind and eventually dispersing into nothingness. The heavy water surged like a crushing mountain. Wherever the water passed, fire and water collided, and the flames quickly retreated. The shape of the heavy water followed Yuan Hao's intent, rising into a Tenjiang-high wave that smothered the spreading sea of fire. At another moment, it became a water shield, blocking the raging fire tongues. The gale and the heavy water advanced together, unstoppable. The flames seemed to yield to the gale, retreating steadily. The Feng Ying and Yuan Hao quickly charged deep into the sea of fire. The fire was driven back to the edge of the cave hall, and the flames began to weaken. The two of them were soon within several dozen zhang of Xing Gaohan. Xing Gaohan, who was seeking death here? Yuan Hao said with some smugness. The heavy water raised a wave, which quickly changed form, condensing into an incredibly sharp spike. The spike was deep blue, radiating with a sharp, golden gleam. The spike rapidly extended, aiming straight for Xing Gaohan's chest. Xing Gaohan showed no sign of panic on his face. Instead, a smile of triumph appeared. He quickly retreated, avoiding the spike of heavy water. At the same time, he signaled to Xing Wenyao. The latter gave a slight nod. Suddenly, 9 short blades appeared on their foreheads, and they shot toward the two demons nearby. Focused spirit stab. The two demons were caught completely off guard. Most demons cultivate their physical bodies but neglect their souls. Demons tend to be physically strong, but their demon souls are often weak. Spiritual sense attacks are one of the most feared types of attacks by demons. Although these two demons had heard of the focused spirit stab, they had also made preparations before coming to the island. Two skulls appeared before them. These skulls were long and triangular in shape, the remains of two third-tier nether foxes, however. The demons' crafting of magical artifacts was not as refined as the humans, and the two nether fox skulls were somewhat crudely made. The skulls trembled slightly, emitting a faint glow. The glow gradually spread, forming a membrane as thin as a cicada's wing. At this moment, the two demons rapidly retreated, trying to avoid the spiritual blades. Just as Xinggaohan had said earlier, the cave's terrain severely limited the demons' movement if they were in the ocean. Yuan Hao could move through the water freely. If they were in an open space, the Fengying could soar high. Both could move tens of miles in an instant, but in this cave, there was nowhere to hide. The two demons only retreated a short distance before the spiritual blades caught up with them. The spiritual blades struck the membrane, seemingly encountering an insurmountable barrier. A faint ripple spread across the membrane, like water waves, and slowly dissipated the power of the spiritual blades. However, while the membrane blocked one spiritual blade, there were still 8 more following. The membrane was eventually pierced. Several spiritual blades pierced into the heads of the two demons. The two demons were struck as if by lightning, their bodies suddenly freezing. Their eyes bulged out, revealing unbearable pain as they trembled violently. Letting out a mournful wail, the demons could no longer remain airborne and fell to the ground. The Xian in heavy water and the Qiming gang wind immediately lost control, their power dissipating. The heavy water turned into a pile of mud, sluggishly flowing across the cave floor. The wind weakened and slowly dispersed into the air. This is the terrifying power of spiritual sense attacks. Not only can they injure the soul, but they can also cause an opponent's abilities to collapse. It's worth noting that the attack on Yuan Hao came from Xinggaohan. Xinggaohan's spiritual cultivation was higher than Xingwenyao's, so his spiritual power was naturally more potent. The injuries Yuan Hao sustained were significantly worse than the Fengyings. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Xingwenyu and Xinggaohan would not miss the chance to strike at the fallen enemies. Xinggaohan's feather fan turned into a fire phoenix, and the flame sword immediately engulfing Yuan Hao. Xingwenyao's green wooden branch grew a tough vine, its tip sharp as a blade, aimed at the Fengying's head. The Fengying barely managed to tilt its head, narrowly avoiding the deadly strike. However, the vine nimbly wrapped around its neck, spreading quickly to bind it tightly, rendering it immobile. The tip of the vine rose like a snake's head, plunging into the Fengying's massive body. Xinggaohan and Xingwenyao were preparing to deliver the final blow to the two demons when, suddenly, 2 flying swords shot out from the eastern cave, heading straight for them. Both Xinggaohan and Xingwenyao's expressions tightened, and they immediately turned their attention to the flying swords. Xinggaohan's mind moved, and the fire phoenix flew into the air, charging toward the flying swords aimed at him. Xingwenyao urged the vine, and it whizzed through the air like a flail, bringing the Fengying along as it smashed into the flying swords. The fire phoenix intercepted one of the flying swords. The vine also struck and sent the other flying sword flying, but the Fengying's back was injured by the sword light, leaving a deep bloodstain visible down to the bone. A large number of black feathers were cut off and scattered in the air. The Fengying's blood sprayed into the air, and it slowly emerged from the confusion of soul damage. In the face of death, it erupted with all its strength. Its wings flared violently, with feathers like blades instantly cutting through the vine and freeing itself. However, it didn't immediately take to the air but instead crashed heavily into the stone wall of the cave hall. Meanwhile, Yuan Hao curled up on the ground, charred and on the brink of death. At this moment, no one was paying attention to the two demons. The 2 flying swords that had attacked Xinggaohan and Xingwenyao were merely distractions. While the 2 of them were distracted dealing with the flying swords, 2 figures suddenly emerged from a lava fissure near the high platform and flew toward the coffin on the platform. These 2 were Yin Shuo and Jing Wuming. It was unclear when Yin Shuo had escaped the labyrinth and formed an alliance with Jing Wuming. Chapter 458. Yin Shuo's quick escape from the labyrinth was mainly due to his possession of some information about the maze. Along with a bit of luck, he had just exited the maze when he encountered Jing Wuming, who was secretly watching the battle, with the intention of reaping the benefits from the conflict. The 2 did not engage directly, but instead hid and observed. After a brief exchange, they discovered that Jing Wuming's goal was the soul-destroying demon pill. while In Shuo was after the wind, Thunder Goldeneye Beast. Thus, the two quickly agreed to cooperate temporarily, each pursuing their own objectives. The two arrived above the corpse coffin and each shot a beam of spiritual power. In Shuo aimed to seize the corpse of the Wind Thunder Goldeneye Beast, while Jing Wuming aimed to take the pill furnace. However, they encountered the same situation as before with Xing Gaohan. The sinister energy gushing from the supporting pillars shattered their spiritual power. Clearly, the two had not expected this and were momentarily stunned. Planning to use their powers again, the fire phoenix flapped its wings. The vines shot through the air. A dried corpse suddenly appeared in front of In Shuo. The corpse was decayed and torn, its bones faintly glowing with a golden hue. The corpse emitted an overwhelming aura of death and attacked the vine with great force. Jing Wuming, whose body originally showed signs of aging, suddenly expanded, growing to a height of about 10 feet. His muscles bulging, his left hand clenched into a fist, the muscles on his arm taut, with veins resembling ancient tree roots wrapping around his skin. A giant ape phantom, towering dozens of feet tall, appeared behind him. "Break!" Jing Wuming shouted. The giant ape phantom, seemingly responding to the command, threw a punch through the air in an instant. The wind from the punch howled like a hurricane, freezing cold and unstoppable. A massive phantom fist appeared out of nowhere, carrying immense power, and charged at the fire phoenix. The fire phoenix was struck by the phantom fist and let out a mournful cry. Its form swayed, and the flames dimmed significantly, just as Jing Wuming was about to throw another punch. His peripheral vision caught sight of In Shuo quietly retreating a few steps. In Shuo had used a golden corpse to momentarily block Xing Wenyao's attack, and he now seized the opportunity to cast a spell directly at the stone coffin. Several streams of spiritual power shot from his body and entered the coffin. Jing Wuming, with a cold expression, spoke. "Sneaking around and doing shady things is not the way of a great demon master." In Shuo's expression remained unchanged. "Don't worry, my friend. You just need to stop Xing Gaohan. Once the sinister energy in the coffin is broken, I'll only take the Wind Thunder Goldeneye Beast's corpse, and the pill furnace will be yours." Jing Wuming coldly replied, "I'd better see that happen." With that, he ignored In Shuo and focused entirely on the battle with Xing Gaohan. If In Shuo dared to break the agreement and take both the beast's corpse and the pill furnace for himself, Jing Wuming would certainly turn against him. In Shuo would then have to face a siege by 3 nascent soul cultivators, which would be tantamount to seeking death. Jing Wuming was confident that with In Shuo's intelligence and nature, he would not make such a foolish mistake. "Jing Wuming, how dare you betray the bond between our two families and team up with In Shuo? This devil!" Xing Gaohan shouted angrily. During the battle with Xing Wenyao and the two demons, Xing Gaohan had expended a considerable amount of spiritual power. Moreover, both Jing Wuming and In Shuo had defensive spiritual treasures, making it difficult for his focused spirit stab to harm them. Additionally, while Xing Wenyao was only at the mid-stage of the nascent soul, both Jing Wuming and In Shuo were at the late stage, putting the Xing family at a disadvantage in terms of cultivation. Unable to win through force, Xing Gaohan could only try to reason with him. Jing Wuming smiled, faintly, his tone filled with disdain. "Xing Gaohan, we've both been cultivating for hundreds of years. Why bother with such childish words? The bond between the two families. What does that even mean? Does it enhance our cultivation or extend our lifespan?" Xing Gaohan stared at In Shuo, who was casting a spell on the stone coffin, his teeth grinding in hatred, yet he was helpless. "Jing Wuming, how dare you make a deal with In Shuo, the old monster? Don't be surprised if you end up with nothing and In Shuo stabs you in the back." Jing Wuming paid no attention to Xing Gaohan, focusing only on holding the other side back. He glanced at In Shuo behind him, slightly dissatisfied, and spoke. "In Shuo, how much longer will this take? Why haven't you broken the sinister energy from the stone pillar yet?" In Shuo replied, "This sinister energy is endless and quite tricky. Give me a moment." "Humph!" Jing Wuming snorted in displeasure. The 4 human nascent soul cultivators were fiercely engaged in battle, But none noticed the change in the two demons. The shining heavy water on the ground had disappeared. It seemed that Yuan Hao had used some method to secretly absorb it into his body. The remaining fire poison on Yuan Hao's body was dispersed by the shining heavy water, and his injuries had largely healed, however, to avoid drawing the attention of the 4 human cultivators. His appearance remained charred and blackened, the winged eagle, with several holes punctured in its body by the vines and a sword strike to its back, dragged its heavily injured body and quietly left the hall, disappearing without a trace suddenly. The vine that reached the ceiling of the hall on the stone pillar began to spread with blood-colored veins. The entire pillar rapidly turned a seductive crimson hue. The intense, sinister energy within the pillar suddenly went out of control, surging forth in a powerful burst. Yin Shua, closest to the pillar, was caught off guard and was the first to be hit by the sinister energy. Though the energy was overwhelming, it did not target Yin Shua directly. He was merely pushed back several feet by the force but quickly stabilized himself. The sudden change naturally caught the attention of the other 3. "What's going on?" Jing Wuming turned and asked. The pillar continued to pour out sinister energy, making Yin Shua's clothes flutter violently. "I don't know. It seems like the formation on this pillar was broken by someone, and the sinister energy was sealed inside and now leaking out." Jing Wuming frowned. "Was it not your doing? Could there be someone else here?" Yin Shua shook his head and answered briefly. He pulled out a long whip, and with a flick, it shot forward like a spirit snake, entering the stone coffin. Just as the whip was about to wrap around the head of the Wind Thunder Golden-Eye beast, it was deflected by the violent corpse. Yin Shua was about to make another move when he saw the stone pillar suddenly tremble. His eyes widened in disbelief as he seemed to witness something impossible. He saw that the Wind Thunder Golden-Eye beast, which had been dead for thousands of years, suddenly moved its front hoof slightly. As the hoof moved, the large chains embedded in it also swayed, making a dull sound clang. The beast's eyes suddenly opened, revealing blood-red pupils devoid of any emotion. They were like flames in the abyss, staring into the endless darkness, exuding a cold, merciless aura. The sudden change made Yin Shua instinctively retreat, his eyes fixed on the stone coffin. The other 3 also ceased fighting, focusing on the transformation of the Wind Thunder Golden-Eye beast. Crash, thud. The 4 chains began to shake violently. Rubbing against the ground with a continuous, grinding sound, the Wind Thunder Golden-Eye beast moved all 4 hooves at once, then stomped the ground, struggling to rise. It seemed as though it had been asleep for too long, or perhaps the weight of the stone pillar on its body was too great. Despite several attempts, it couldn't stand up. Its eyes shifted as if it had thought of something. A vast force of soul energy surged from within the beast's body, flooding the stone coffin. The ancient stone coffin seemed to be activated by the soul energy, and silver symbols began to appear both inside and outside the coffin. These symbols gradually spread, extending to the entire high platform. On the platform above, the silver light grew intensely. Chapter 459. Crack, crack, crack. The sound of rocks cracking echoed continuously from the ceiling of the cave hall. At the point where the stone pillar met the ceiling, pieces of cracked stone began to peel off and fall. At this moment, it became clear that the stone pillar wasn't simply supporting the ceiling, it had pierced through it, embedding itself deep into the rock above, extending beyond sight. Above the high platform, silver light shimmered, gradually converging into a powerful force that slowly pushed the stone pillar upward. Suddenly, the silver light surged, dazzling like brilliant stars descending upon the world, illuminating the entire underground hall as brightly as day. The stone pillar, struck by this force, shot upwards suddenly like a wild horse breaking free from its reins, rushing toward the ceiling. Boom, boom, boom. The stone pillar traveled through the rocky ceiling, creating deafening sounds as though it was about to tear the ceiling apart. The entire underground hall shook violently, with dust and broken stones falling everywhere. The stone pillar continued to pierce through the ceiling, creating a large square hole several meters wide. Bang, 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 bang. The sounds of 4 chains snapping rang out. The Wind Thunder Golden-Eye beast leaped onto the stone coffin, pulling out the broken chains embedded in its limbs, leaving behind strange black-brown wounds. Roar. The Wind Thunder Golden Eye Beast let out a long howl which echoed through the hall like a thunderclap. A powerful aura surged from the beast as it glanced down with disdain over the entire hall as if an emperor inspecting its domain. The four nascent soul cultivators immediately stopped their battle and nervously watched the Wind Thunder Golden Eye Beast, their senses heightened. From the Wind Thunder Golden Eye Beast, the four of them felt an unprecedented pressure stronger than even a peak nascent soul cultivator could exert. The oppressive aura emitted by the Wind Thunder Golden Eye Beast was overwhelming, and the four dared not make any movements, fearing that even the slightest misstep would trigger the beast's thunderous wrath. Even the heavily wounded Yuan Hao stood up, retreating to a corner, his expression serious as he watched the Wind Thunder Golden Eye Beast. The Wind Thunder Golden Eye Beast cast a few glances at the four nascent soul cultivators before turning away. No longer paying attention, as if they were insignificant in its eyes, suddenly the beast's four hooves exerted strength and it jumped high, flying through the square hole in the ceiling. Seeing the Wind Thunder Golden Eye Beast leave, the others breathed a collective sigh of relief. The pressure from the beast had been immense. In its presence, they felt as small and fragile as a lone boat adrift on a vast sea. Only Yin Shua seemed to realize something, his face filled with suspicion as he stared at the hole in the ceiling, his brows furrowed. He had a faint feeling that something was wrong with the Wind Thunder Golden Eye Beast. Suddenly, he realized what was off. When the Wind Thunder Golden Eye Beast left, it took the pill furnace with it. Given its strength far surpassed that of a peak nascent soul cultivator, why would it need a soul-breaking pill? Could it be that the furnace did not contain pills, but something else? Then Yin Shua recalled the blackened, decaying flesh on the Wind Thunder Golden Eye Beast's hooves. His eyes lit up and he exclaimed in surprise, the Wind Thunder Golden Eye Beast was bluffing. Its aura is fake, it's already dead. What we saw was just a powerful corpse puppet made from the body of the beast. Corpse puppet. The other three looked at Yin Shua in disbelief. Then why is it moving? Did the corpse puppet gain intelligence? Asked Xing Gaohan. It's likely not that the corpse puppet gained intelligence, but that a powerful soul has occupied the body of the Wind Thunder Golden Eye Beast, Yin Shua answered. Before he could finish speaking, his figure suddenly transformed into a streak of light and dashed toward the square hole in the ceiling. The other three immediately followed, rising into the air. Yuan Hao glanced at the square hole but did not rush to follow. He was too heavily wounded and had no chance of competing against the four nascent soul cultivators. Regardless of the circumstances, he no longer had any qualifications to fight for the beast's corpse. Suddenly, a dark shadow enveloped the sky above him. Looking up, he saw the Fengying flapping its wings as it approached. Yuan Hao, the holy demon's corpse is right in front of you. Why aren't you chasing it? Yuan Hao glanced at the Fengying in the sky, his tone tinged with helplessness. We're lucky enough to be alive, right now, heavily injured as I am. Trying to seize the holy demon's corpse from four nascent soul cultivators would be like a fool's dream. Besides, as Yin Shua said, the holy demon has already been turned into a corpse puppet, its essence blood long gone. There's nothing left for you and me to refine or absorb. The Fengying sneered, don't forget, we tracked this place using the holy demon's bloodline. This proves that there's still some essence blood left inside the holy demon's body, and it's not weak. Otherwise, the bloodline's secret technique wouldn't work. Yuan Hao's expression shifted. What you say does make some sense, but how are we supposed to defeat Xing Gaohan and the others? The Fengying's eyes gleamed with sharpness. There will always be an opportunity. At that moment, the entire ceiling of the cave hall cracked and stones began to fall continuously. Let's go, the hall is about to collapse. Songwen was feeling quite depressed. He never expected that while hiding in the underground temporary cave, the ground would suddenly begin to collapse without warning. After escaping from underground, Songwen noticed that the entire secret realm seemed to be shaking, as if there had been an earthquake. On the mountain, countless stones rolled down, producing thunderous sounds. What's happening? Is the entire secret realm about to collapse? An inexplicable sense of unease surged in his heart. Songwen rose into the air and flew toward the direction away from the mountain. If the secret realm was really undergoing a transformation, the area near the mountain would undoubtedly be the most dangerous. Just as Songwen flew more than 100 feet away, a vengeful spirit suddenly appeared in front of him. It was only a second-tier vengeful spirit, which posed no threat to Songwen and was easily subdued and devoured. However, the appearance of the vengeful spirit made Songwen more cautious. The higher you went in the secret realm, the denser the ghost fog became, and the vengeful spirits grew stronger. The lower regions had never seen any vengeful spirits before. It seems the anomaly in the secret realm has affected the vengeful spirits, altering their active range. Suddenly, Songwon suddenly heard a deep rumbling sound from behind him, like distant thunder, then came louder bang-bang sounds as if someone were endlessly beating a large drum. Songwon knew that this was the sound of numerous stones loosening and rolling down the mountainside. He didn't hesitate for a second and immediately increased his speed. The rumbling sounds from behind continued as the sound of rolling stones grew more intense. A thunderous roar reverberated through the sky like the anger of the heavens. The ground began to shake violently. A powerful gust of wind swept through, stirring the ghost fog into a swirling frenzy. The wind carried with it countless small pebbles and dust. The entire secret realm seemed to collapse as if the sky and earth were falling apart, becoming chaotic. The mountain collapsed. The ground sank. The ghost fog surged. The wind ravaged. The dust spread. Looks like part of the mountain has collapsed. What exactly is going on? Looking at the scene of earth-shattering destruction, Songwon couldn't help but secretly be thankful that he had escaped quickly enough. Chapter 460. At the foot of the mountain, the corpse pit, the stone pillar continued to rise, piercing into the mountain's interior, as if it intended to penetrate the entire mountain. The cracks in the cave ceiling grew wider, and numerous massive stone blocks kept falling. The only exit of the corpse pit, the stone staircase passage, had been blocked by falling rocks. Xing Yishuan and Nyoing were trapped in the corpse pit, looking at the continuously falling massive rocks from the ceiling. A flash of fear appeared in Nyo Ying's eyes. "Miss, how do we escape?" Xing Yishuan looked up at the massive crack in the ceiling, created by the stone pillar, and spoke. "Follow me." A flying sword appeared in front of Xing Yishuan. The sword was surrounded by a glowing sword aura, which flickered in and out of view. The sword light cut through the air, smashing the blocking giant rocks one by one. Xing Yishuan leaped into the air, swiftly following the sword light's trajectory, dashing toward the crack in the ceiling behind her. Nyoing closely followed. The corpse pit was only a few miles deep, and the two of them quickly passed through the crack, emerging at the base of the mountain. At that moment, countless giant stones were rolling down the mountain, and as the two prepared to flee from the mountain, they suddenly heard a deafening beastly roar coming from the crack behind them. The roar was like a thunderclap. Even the massive sounds of the collapsing mountain couldn't mask it. Xing Yishuan and Nyoing felt as though their eardrums might burst, their heartbeats accelerating as an intense sense of dread and unease surged within them. They hurriedly increased their speed, trying to get away from the crack. Suddenly, a demon beast over 3 meters tall appeared in the crack. The beast was like a creature with copper skin and iron bones, rampaging through the crack. Anything it touched, including fallen stones, was reduced to dust. The wind thunder golden-eye beast leaped out of the crack, brushing past the two of them and charging toward the mountaintop. Before they could react, the beast's front hooves scraped Nyo Ying's left shoulder. Nyoing immediately felt as though he had been struck by a mountain peak. His protective magic was as fragile as an eggshell, shattering with a single touch. A burst of blood mist exploded from his left shoulder, and his entire left arm was destroyed. Nyoing was tossed like a leaf caught in a wild wind, rolling uncontrollably toward the rear. A massive falling stone hit his body. Boom. The stone hit the ground. "Miss, help!" Nyoing, his body now half buried, still had a breath left and struggled to call for help. Countless rocks continued to fall, quickly turning his body into a pile of flesh, burying him completely. Xing Yishuan was momentarily stunned by the aura emanating from the wind thunder golden-eye beast and forgot to dodge. She was struck by a falling rock, however. Her protective magical shield held strong, and with quick reflexes, she wasn't injured, though she appeared a little disheveled. Xing Yishuan glanced at the spot where Nyoing had been buried and, hastily activating her movement technique, prepared to flee the dangerous area. Just then, she saw a figure rush out of the crack. The person didn't pause and immediately pursued the wind thunder golden-eye beast, charging up toward the mountaintop. Then came a second, third, and fourth figure. Xing Yishuan recognized all four of them. They were the 4 nascent soul cultivators who had entered the secret realm. Xing Yishuan's speed increased. as she hastened her retreat. Not long after she left, two more figures rushed out from the crack, the figures of Yuan Hao and Feng Ying. What is the Wind Thunder Golden Eye Beast doing at the mountaintop? Does it intend to enter the maze in the palace, using the complex terrain and the thick ghost mist to shake us off? Xing Wenyao, while fully exerting himself in his movement technique, transmitted a voice to Xing Gaohan, asking. He was only in the middle stage of the nascent soul realm, the lowest cultivation level among the four, and he had been pushing himself to the limit to avoid falling behind. In Shua, who was at the front, seemed reluctant to face the Wind Thunder Golden Eye Beast alone, intentionally slowing his speed. Xing Gaohan shook his head. I don't know either. But we must be cautious, Although the Wind Thunder Golden Eye Beast might appear to be blustering, it is likely not so easy to deal with. Also, we should be wary of Yin Shua and Jing Wuming. Soon, the four of them arrived at the mountaintop. The Wind Thunder Golden Eye Beast did not, as Xing Wenyao had expected, enter the maze within the palace, but instead stopped in the square outside the palace. In the center of the square, there were 9 stone pillars standing. The 9 stone pillars formed a circle. The Wind Thunder Golden Eye Beast stood at the center of the circle. Its thick soul power surged out, splitting into 9 streams that poured into the 9 stone pillars. The stone pillars glowed with a crimson light. The beams of blood-red light crossed each other, casting the entire circle in a crimson hue. In the center of the circle, a powerful energy fluctuation suddenly emerged. A giant blood-colored light pillar shot up into the sky, turning the dark ghost mist in the high sky into a dark red hue. The moment the blood-colored light pillar appeared, the Wind Thunder Golden Eye Beast stopped channeling its soul power. It quickly leaped out of the circle. For nascent soul cultivators were unsure of what the Wind Thunder Golden Eye Beast was doing, but only Xing Gaohan and Xing Wenyao exchanged glances as if having some guesses. The opportunity is right in front of us. Whether we can obtain it depends on our own abilities, Yin Shua said loudly. As the four prepared to act together, they saw the Wind Thunder Golden Eye Beast place a cauldron on the ground and then open its mouth, speaking human words. Human race. I am the Lord of the Sea, King of all beasts, the descendant of the divine beast Zhe. How dare you show disrespect to me? Yin Shua's thin face revealed a strange smile. Friend, stop pretending. You are just a wisp of a remnant soul inhabiting the corpse of the Wind Thunder Golden Eye Beast. Do you really think these trivial tricks can scare us off? The Wind Thunder Golden Eye Beast replied, Since you have seen through it, I will no longer hide it. I am the Lord of the Nether Shrine, deputy head of the Divine Blood Gate. You few junior humans dare to challenge my authority? Yin Shua heard this, and instead of being frightened, his eyes gleamed with excitement, like a demon seeing a beautiful woman in the nude. Don't waste words with him. He's just stalling for time. Xing Gaohan suddenly roared, interrupting the conversation between the beast and the man. As his voice fell, his flaming red feather fan soared into the air, transforming into a giant fire phoenix in an instant. Chirp. The phoenix flew, its cry ringing through the air. The fire phoenix opened its mouth and spit out a fireball the size of a millstone. Faced with the rapidly approaching fireball, the Wind Thunder Golden Eye Beast no longer had its previous invincible aura. It quickly grabbed the cauldron in front of it and hurriedly dodged to the left. Boom. The fireball hit the ground, the earth shattered, and a giant pit several dozen meters wide appeared. At the edge of the pit, the rocks were instantly melted by the intense heat, forming a layer of glass-like substance. Flames scattered, some of which fell onto the Wind Thunder Golden Eye Beast. However, it had no time to care about that, only focusing on fleeing. Sure enough, it was just bluster. The four nascent soul cultivators' expressions brightened. They could all see the Wind Thunder Golden Eye Beast's true strength now, and their spirits lifted. They each used their techniques to launch attacks on the Wind Thunder Golden Eye Beast.